Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, Eureka! Yeah, we're gonna look at it in this tale. South of Salt Lake City, mountains, mines, that's us for this old one. It's a ghost town. That name will certainly be fitting in all the ways you know I mean. It started with a vanishing, it ended with a finding, and a gavel. So go on here, right? Let's skip the like and subscribe, let's skip the sponsored by, let's skip the bad jokes, which only I enjoy. Because I got a feeling you just want to give it a go. If you were to drive about an hour 20 south of Salt Lake City, now that I think about it, actually, that's another old haunt of ours, you would find yourself in rocky desert country. And you would say to yourself, I have found it. In Greek. So that'd be Eureka. What have you found? Beside rocks. I don't know, it beats me. No, wait, well, what you actually would find yourself in is mining country. So, yeah, actually, rocks. Baby, you know it's gold and silver though, right? Cha-ching. Eureka was founded in 1870, founded as a mining town, and today the landscape is littered with them. Mines. At its height in the late 19th century, over 5,000 people lived and worked in the area. But over time the mines produced less and less and dipped after World War I, dipping again during the Depression, and by the 50s it was more or less finished. Today, it's home to around 600 people, the majority over 65 years old. Not a whole lot happening these days in old Eureka. But Eureka, the Pearl of Utah, right, was home to two people we're going to talk about today. You got Riley Powell, and you got Breezy, Otteson. Eureka is certainly a place where family would know each other going back decades, and Riley and Breezy were no different. In December 2017, Riley and Breezy had been dating each other about 4 months, and they were mad about each other. Riley was born in April 1999. These are both kids. He was born in Provo, not too a tree far away, and he had two sisters. An adventurous sort. Well, hey, hard not to be. You know, it's an area for that sort of thing, always looking to be explored. He loved off-roading, drag racing, and was always looking to see what was over the next hill. And he had big hearts, and looked out for those around him. Brillian went by Breezy, which was a fitting name for someone with a larger-than-life personality. She was born in January 2000 in Salt Lake, but unfortunately her mother passed away in 2011. But she found love with Riley as he did with her, and they found stability in each other. And guess what? Our story begins at a time of celebrate good times. Come on. It was 2 days before New Year's Eve, and the weather in that part of the world at that time of year, it's cold. Cold in winter, that's a new one. The snow pours on, but during the festive season, that won't stop you. It was on the 29th of December 2017 that the pair were in Riley's Jeep, driving for a wee bit. It was from Provo they were driving, stopping off in Tooele to give a what's up to Breezy's family and a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, presents, all the hits, all the good ones, doing the rounds as many do that time of year. They stopped off in Tooele before heading back to Eureka, where they both, Riley and Breezy, lived together with Riley's granddad. And it was during that 1 hour drive through that desert that Riley and Breezy simply fell off the map. They never made it back to Eureka, like only wind and dust was the only thing on that road. They just disappeared. It was the next day, the 30th of December, that people really started to notice, hey, where's Riley and Breezy? You know, no social media, no messages, no texts. You seen him, you seen him, you seen him? No! No, was the resounding answer. The route was driven. They had, come from Tooele in case there had been some sort of accident. And this is not a place you kind of want to have an accident because, in the depths of winter, there's not really a whole lot there, to be honest. So, but nothing. Nothing. It was on the 2nd of January, after a very worried and stressful New Year's, that they were both 17-year-old Breezy, 18-year-old Riley, were reported missing to the sheriff's office.
Authorities say 17-year-old Berlin Otteson and 18-year-old Riley Powell left Tooele back on December 30th to drive to Eureka. Problem is, they never showed up. The couple planned to stop in Spanish Fork before going home to Eureka, where both teens live with Powell's grandfather. Powell is known to enjoy going exploring or off-roading, and authorities believe the couple may have gone on a dirt road and become stuck. They were last seen driving a dark blue Jeep Grand Cherokee with license plate number 674VWV. Adding to the concern is the fact that Powell's Jeep has more than 200,000 miles on it, and the teens have old cell phones that only use Wi-Fi. If you have any information, you're asked to call the Juab County Sheriff's Office or the Tooele County Sheriff's Office.
And so the search was on in that frigid hellscape called Utah. But of course, yeah, time was of the essence, right? And as I said, it's not a place you want to have a breakdown. And if they did go off-road, there's a lot of off-road. And so the investigation sparked up, right? And they did what they always do. They speak to every single one they can, right? I mean, there's only 600 people there, so your options are kind of limited. But one of the women they spoke with was this one, Morgan Henderson, 34 years old, and she lived right around the corner in Mammoth. She lived with her boyfriend, Jerrod Baum, and Jerrod's dad. Her, initial idea about what could have happened, maybe, Mexican drug dealers got him or something. Which was a bit odd, but okay. The authorities learned a little bit more, though, from going through the devices he left behind, right? They ended up finding his Facebook messages. And they could see he had actually been messaging somebody. Riley had been messaging somebody the day he disappeared on Facebook. He'd been messaging a woman named Morgan Henderson. In fact, it seemed like the plan had been for both Riley and Breezy to pop into Morgan on their way home. It would have been just along the road. So the police went to have a bit of a chin wag, and wag they did. Morgan would later say, her story changed, because of course it does, that Riley and Breezy popped in. They had a bit of a puff pass, you know what's up. And then they stayed for about 40 minutes, and then they were gone. They left. Once Morgan's boyfriend, Jerrod, came home, they were out of there. The reason they left when Jerrod arrived was that he did not want Morgan hanging out with people in his house when he wasn't around. And hanging out with men when he wasn't around? You fucking kidding me?
Well, somewhere in Utah's West Desert, 2 teenagers vanished without a trace just before New Year's Eve.
What happened to Breezy Otteson and Riley Powell? Well, that question has volunteers now going 1,000 feet under the surface of the earth in hopes of finding out.
And up you go.
Okay. It's sad that we didn't find them down there.
We know for certain now. Riley and Breezy were not there.
I'm Riley's dad. I don't care about anything else. I just want the kids found.
Searching. It'll be 90 days tomorrow. Holding out hope. One thing I know is that she wanted to be loved. And through all of this, just know, Breezy, you're loved.
It was on the 11th that Riley's Jeep was found. It was a helicopter that managed to snag it, and it looked in poor shape. Both tires on the passenger side had been punctured, and the way they were, they could tell the car hadn't been moving when the tires had been punctured. And also, all the windows were down. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that there was no accident. There was nothing, though, found inside. In fact, staged would be the word that would come up. The Jeep had been sort of covered, as if someone wanted to, to hide it. And it was found 40 minutes from Eureka, in a sort of reservoir. Cherry Creek, they call it. Oh, they'll soon be calling it Cherry Desert. And still the search continued, though, as the Jeep gave them not a whole lot.
Breezy Otteson and Riley Powell were last seen leaving Tooele on their way home to Eureka. Their Jeep was found partially hidden in some trees about a mile south of Cherry Creek Reservoir. Police say that they now believe the Jeep was dropped there intentionally and not by the 2 missing teens.
One thing they did locate, though, on the Jeep was a camouflaged tow strap. The Jeep had been towed to where it was, so that kind of, it gives you a clue as to how it got there. But it seemed like foul play was, at play now. And so the frenzy to get these 2 beloved young people back was even higher. The families were there every single day. Except Riley's mother, though. She doesn't really get into the whole thing too much. They were estranged. Riley was brought up by his granddad. Apparently, bit of And things take an even stranger turn when Riley's mother's boyfriend, he reports to the police that he saw someone towing that Jeep around the time of the disappearance. Maybe he could explain why Riley's Jeep ended up where it did and what happened before. The police started investigating Riley's mother and her boyfriend, Misty and Lee. They weren't incredibly forthcoming though, which always just makes the police want to look at you more, but nothing. That is until the 25th of March, 2018. Riley and Breezy, that had been missing for about 3 months at this stage, at just a routine traffic stop, someone was pulled over. That someone was Morgan Henderson. The Morgan Henderson who was one of the last people to see Riley and Breezy alive. Morgan was pulled over for speeding and she failed a drug test. Upon searching her car, they found an axe, a rifle, and knives. She was then taken in, and after feeling, quote, tremendous guilt, unquote, she told what really happened. It was not good. Riley, Breezy, and Morgan, they had been hanging out that night, and then Jerrod came home. But, before I get into what exactly happened, who the shit is Jerrod Baum? A real sack of shit, that's who. In 2018, he was 41 years old, well known to the popo in the area, though he kept to himself among the general population. He had quite the history. At age 15, he had walked into a Burger King with a big old gun, a big old iron, and he started blasting. The idea was to rob the place and kill everyone. Now, he didn't kill anyone. He was arrested, he was charged as an adult. The attempted murder charge was dismissed, and he went to prison. He took a sweet L plea deal though. He would be in and out of prison actually his whole life, usually from parole violations stemming from that one incident. He had quite a few tattoos. This picture here tells you really all you need to know about how much he sucks ass. He has a lot of tattoos. Well, obviously the swastika, Iron Cross, a lot of Nordic tattoos. And get this, apparently he practices Odinism. Like some, ancient Norse religion. As usual, the religion itself is like very old and it's not racist at all. But then of course Nazis come along and they fucking ruin everything. Jerrod and Morgan would do rituals, drawing runes and symbols in blood, which investigators would come to believe was his attempt to control her. But out of all this weird shit, one thing that really concerned Morgan, and again later investigators, was that he had a lot of tattoos of headstones with initials in them. Morgan thought they were previous victims. Serial killer, fuck's sake.
You gotta help us with this. We can't do anything for it if you can't. We can't make any progress.
So when he came home that December night, and boy oh boy did he come home, he found Riley and Breezy with Morgan and he was none too pleased. Telling her, I told you you couldn't have any guy friends. He then bound both Riley and Breezy, hands, feet, and duct taped them, and placed them in the back of Riley's truck. Then Jerrod, with Morgan in the passenger seat, not having a clue what was going on, they all drove. Jerrod was joking and smiling the entire time. They eventually arrived at the Tintic mine. Once a massive mine in the area, now abandoned, he beat Riley and stabbed him before throwing him in the mine, saying, "Goodbye, Riley." He then cut Breezy's throat, and she too went in the mine. Morgan told all of this to the police, and the young couple's bodies were found. This was on the 27th of March, about 100 feet down. Their hands were still tied behind their backs. Jerrod Baum was arrested that very next day.
This crime scene tape is still up there behind me. That's where they were found. Again, we don't know if it is Breezy and Riley. The identification is pending at the moment, but the families say that the fight is just beginning.
Morgan was arrested on suspicion of obstruction of justice. Jerrod Baum, well, among other things, he was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty.
Baum, the man accused of killing 2 Tooele teens, is expected to be inside a Provo courtroom today.
So that is incredibly disturbing. It would be a long time, though, before the trial will actually kick off. Like a whole 4 years later. As in, like, now. Like 2022 now. The gearing up for the trial took so long was because, well, the death penalty was on the cards, and then off them, much to the family's chagrin. Whether Riley and Breezy could be referred to as children or not, the judge ruled young adults. He wouldn't allow Jerrod to be called a white supremacist, whether some medical records could be used or not in relation to Morgan, and Morgan who, in a plea deal, would testify against Jerrod. After all, pretty much the whole prosecution's case rested on her. This was in return for her being a free woman once the Jerrod Baum case was finished.
Morgan Henderson is Jerrod Baum's former girlfriend, and she's the only person who witnessed the murder of 2 teens near Eureka.
It was the most horrible sound I've ever heard.
And there wasn't really a whole lot of evidence against him. It was mostly circumstantial. The whole, like I said, it really all rested on Morgan Henderson's shoulders and how what she said matched with what the police found.
He'd never been mad at me like that. That had never happened before. It felt scary. It was clear something was really wrong. So you're out there in the middle of the night, 2 people are tied up, and so it was scary. Riley asked if he could kiss his girlfriend, and then Breezy said no, and she started crying. I heard Riley say, "I'm dying," and he was gurgling. And that's when I realized that he wasn't hitting Riley, he was stabbing Riley. It was the most horrible sound I've ever heard. He's got this huge grin on his face, like he's enjoying himself. And he was, he did later, he's laughed about it. He said that was like lambs to the slaughter. They didn't even fight.
The trial would last a month.
It was an emotional day for the families of Breezy and Riley. It's been more than 4 years since their deaths, and their families say it's taken too long for this trial to happen. The first witness to take the stand, Morgan Lewis. She was Baum's girlfriend at the time of Riley and Breezy's deaths.
How did he kill Riley?
He stabbed him.
How did he kill Breezy?
He cut her throat.
What did he do with their bodies?
He threw them in a mine.
How do you know this is what happened?
Because I saw it.
Lewis says she told police what happened on her own.
I wanted them to know what happened. I wanted them to know where Riley and Breezy were. The police had come and raided our house and left and didn't find anything, so they moved on. Like, he got away with it, and I was not okay with that. And I felt a lot of guilt and shame.
Jerrod's defense went with, well, Morgan is where you're getting this whole spiel from. What, you gonna believe her? Come on. They said she couldn't distinguish reality from hallucinations, that she had schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, and depression, but wasn't taking any medication.
Baum denied he murdered the teens, and through court documents, his attorney claimed it was Henderson and an unnamed friend who murdered the teens. Henderson's own sister claimed both murdered the 2 teens. As for a possible motive, friends told the detective Baum was angry.
You said that Riley raped Morgan?
Henderson refused to answer questions from the defense, who are seeking to learn more about her involvement.
She had also received, in the past, shock therapy for depression, which they said affected her memory. That actually could be true. And she used mushrooms, allegedly, all the time. That was their whole gambit, just trying to discredit her. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing against Morgan was that she broke Jerrod's rules. That's why the prosecution said Jerrod brutally murdered 2 innocent kids.
Morgan said she saw Jerrod stab Riley in the groin, in the chest, in the head, in the throat, in the face. Riley started to gurgle. He said, "I'm dying."
Was there a dominant one in the relationship? And he said, yeah, Morgan. Also noteworthy, so that somebody who doesn't have any sort of interest in the outcome said, no, Morgan was the one that was the dominant one in that relationship.
It took 3 days of deliberations before the jury returned its verdict.
State of Utah versus Jerrod William Baum. We, the jury in the above entitled case, unanimously find, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant, Jerrod William Baum, is, count 1, guilty of aggravated murder. Count 2, guilty of aggravated murder. Count 3, guilty of aggravated kidnapping. Count 4, guilty of aggravated kidnapping. Count 5, guilty of
Guilty on all counts. Jerrod Baum is scheduled to be sentenced on the 1st of June. It will very likely be life in prison.
The death penalty was taken away from us, and that's what we wanted. This is the next best thing, so we have no complaints. At least I don't. So, very good today. Very good outcome.
It's been a journey, so it's, that wait was painful, but in the moment, I look back and it was just a blurb through all of this. 4 years, we searched for 3 months. We waited 4 years for justice for these kids. So at the end of the day, we can wait, and it was worth the wait.
It's an incredibly tragic case, For the two, just a lovely young couple murdered for what would be the stupid, actually, it gives no reason at all. Jerrod Baum was a crazy person, someone who loved being a big evil bastard. Well, no, he'll be in prison for the rest of his unnatural life, but he seems like someone who, gets on great in there. He'd been involved with the various white gangs, as you can imagine. He was even linked to a prison shanking and prison riots before, so you can imagine he's only licking his chops. I imagine that for him, going to prison will be just like his penis. No biggie. So we will leave it there. But god damn, if there was ever time to bring this back, this is it. Snap, snap! Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to do so. And be here with this guy once again at the end of the video. It really means a lot that you're here. I know I say that every time, but I mean it. So thank you. It's still weird to me that after doing this for however many years, 4 years now, it's people still watch my videos. Still kind of bizarre. I don't think it's hit me. Yeah, after doing it for so long, but here we are. Thank you. Here, go on. I'll see you as always real soon in the next old video. As always. So please, take care of yourselves. I love you. Okay.